I'd like to call this meeting of the Columbus County Board of Education to order. If you would, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, you have before you the final agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Long. Second by Mr. Worley. Any discussion on the agenda? All in favor of approving the agenda as is, let it be known by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The agenda is approved. You also have before you the minutes from our September 11th meeting. What's the pleasure of the board?
So moved.
Motion to approve those minutes by Mr. Coleman, second by Mr. Enzer. Any discussion regarding the minutes? All in favor of approving the minutes from September 11th, let it be known by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Public comments, Mr. Phipps.
I'm pleased to announce that you have no public comments.
Okay. All right. We'll move on to special presentations and recognitions.
All right, so as we have discussed, we are trying to give a presentation each month to the board as to programs that are happening within the district. And so Mr. McLam would be here, but he was not able to. So we're fortunate to have Anna Powell and Brandon Inman back there. Is that all that's here? Yeah. And they're going to do a presentation on our migrant program and our ESL or ELL program. So if you guys will come up here to the front at the table.
Front and center.
Yeah. You're going to be great. You're going to be great.
Don't be nervous at all.
Yeah,
Family and friends.
right.
Who, you?
So since I have the pleasure of going first tonight, my name again is Anna Powell. I'm the migrant coordinator. So first and foremost,
Are we gonna show it?
Presentation. Yes.
Most time that's Mr. Eddie's job.
And then click slideshow up top.
There and then right there.
Slideshow.
And then the remote. You can, the little round circle in the center, the button that's pointing to the right. See the arrow to the right?
okay,
It should transition it.
okay.
See if it does it. Maybe? No?
Oh,
She's not pointed enough for her to.
Yep.
okay.
There you go.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, so first and foremost, I'm sure that you're wondering, what is Migrant Education? So our mission is to help our migrant students basically overcome academic challenges that we're trying to help them overcome the academic challenges and the educational gaps that they have based on their lifestyle. So families who qualify for our programs are migrant families. That means that they move for the purposes of work. They specifically work in agriculture or fishery. So they're very important for our counties. For people who aren't aware of these types of lifestyles, it is very challenging for a child because sometimes they're enrolled in a school, they get acclimated, then they have to get up and move somewhere else. Sometimes that can be a couple months at a time. Sometimes it can be a couple weeks. Sometimes it can be longer. Fortunately, for the most part here in our county, our families stay longer periods of time, and then during breaks, they try to go to other counties for those work purposes. But nonetheless, our families tend to have parents who come from a background with a lower education. So families are working later in the evenings. They don't have the educational backgrounds to help their children. So it is important for us to have this program in place for our students who fall into this category. The Migrant Education Program is a federally funded Title I Part C program. How we help our students is by identifying and recruiting those students, going out in the fields, speaking with staff at schools. It takes a lot of coordination with the community. We have tutors working within the schools, coordinating with classroom teachers to find out where those educational gaps are, and to help supplement and support those services. We also help them with those basic needs that they have, because if students don't have their basic needs met, like food, housing, a bed to sleep in, clean clothes to wear, they're not able to perform well academically. So in a nutshell, that is what we do here at Migrant Education. Some general criteria: students have to be between the ages of 3 and 21, and they have to have not yet received a high school diploma or its equivalent. They have to have moved into a school district within the last 3 years. So in order to continue in the program, they have to make a move for work purposes in agriculture or fishery every 3 years. And again, either the parent, the guardian, spouse, or the child has to work in one of those types of fields. Why is migrant education important specifically to Columbus County? As we all know, we have the strategic plan in place, and we say that quality education is a partnership that's built on those purposeful relationships with educators, students, parents, businesses, and the community. That is what we do. We have to build those relationships with our families to know what their needs are, build the relationships with the teachers to see how we can help them, have the trust of those families and the students to better help them. We have to have responsive and transparent communication to develop trust that encourages involvement and increases student success. And all students can learn if provided equitable opportunities in a safe and nurturing environment that values and respects individuals and celebrates our diversities within our community. So our whole purpose is to encourage cultural awareness. We want to implement various strategies that ensure inclusive learning environments and just the overall improved academic success of our students. I just wanted to give you guys just a general perspective of the most recent thing that we had number-wise as far as a recap for our summer program. We always do what is in the best interest of our students. So we offered a summer camp for our pre-K through 7 students that we offered at Hallsboro. We invited 29 of our students to attend, 24 of those attended, so we had good attendance rate of 83%. We worked with them in all areas of English, math, we did some science, we did some STEM activities. We even had Coach Furlow come out and work with them playing soccer. And we had dental hygienists come out and speak with the students as well. But overall growth-wise, 1 out of 6 students showed growth in math, 1 out of 6 showed growth in ELA. For our high school students, we felt that we were kind of limited in what we could offer to help them personally as tutors and a teacher. So for those students, we had a wonderful CTE summer camp that was offered. So we provided that connection so that they could receive the high school credit and the college credit. We felt that that was the best option to set them up for success. But we only had 8 students attend. It's 35%, but I'm still very proud of those who attended. They were very excited for that opportunity and grateful for it. Okay. Okay. So that you know some of our goals for this year, our biggest goal is always to help our seniors graduate. We want to help them reach for their goals with post-secondary education. We want to promote that global language endorsement for the eligible students, have some more field trips so that they are aware of the opportunities they have for education after high school. We want to at least reach a total of providing services for our summer term for 75% overall with high school and K through 8. DPI has implemented a bunch of new documentation for us, so I'm hoping that we will have 100% accuracy with them. We want to increase our student base via recruitment, and one of the biggest goals is I would like for us to implement a migrant scholarship program. We haven't had a chance to research what that would entail, but that is something that I would love to offer as an opportunity for our students in our migrant population to know that the county and the community does support their growth so that they can achieve their dreams just like we want to achieve ours. Yeah, this remote. Okay. And all in all, I just ask that you keep the keynote speaker, for those of you who heard her, Miss Emily Francis, came and spoke with us at Convocation. Just keep her words close to heart when you think of our particular student-based population. It is a difficult background that they come from. They have a story. It's our responsibility as educators and adults to be attentive, listen, and do what we can to make a difference in their lives, because we can. And there's my contact information. I appreciate your time.
Can I ask a question? What percentage of our migrant students stay a very short time? Is there are they highly transient? What I guess I'm asking.
We have some that come in and come out. Some that come so quickly that we're a very small department.
Right.
So I am the only recruiter. So sometimes they come so quickly that we don't even have time to get out there and interview them before they're gone. We've had some that I go out and interview on a Friday, and by that Monday, they've gone to another county, a whole nother state. So I don't have a percentage per se, but we have some that are pretty come and go, but majority of the ones in our program, they are here for the most part, and then they make those movements throughout the year.
Do you think the summer, the older students not attending in a higher percentage is because they're also working with the parents?
Some of them are, yes, sir. I think it's very relative. I think if we're able to provide them things that they can see as something that will help them grow, that will be useful to them in achieving a career that would help their families, that they would be more apt to participate. I had one student who did both. He went to the CTE summer camp because he wants to be a welder. So he participated in that, and then he and his family went to Michigan to pick blueberries. So some of them do both, some choose to do one, but the high school kids do tend to have a big sense of responsibility for the family.
Yeah, that's what I would think. Thank you.
So did we invite 100% of our students in the program?
We did invite all.
So we've got 52 in the program?
Yes.
Okay.
Which is a significant increase.
Well, for this year, we've actually had a big hit with a decrease right here recently, because at the beginning of the school year, we had some larger families move to other school districts. So those are big hits. When you have families with 6, 7 children at a time who are leaving, that's a big decrease in the numbers. But that is our goal right now, is to start with the recruiting efforts again. We've been placing our focus on getting our tutors in the school and making sure that our children are receiving those services that they need instructional wise, so that they can meet their goals.
I was going to ask too, when you had mentioned about cultural awareness.
Yes, sir.
As far as diversity. Are they bilingual?
Yes. Most of them are bilingual, and that's why Mr. Inman last year had presented on the global endorsement, and a lot of our kids fall into the EL category. Majority of them are bilingual. Now, whether they all know how to read and write it, some do, some don't. It comes with being second generation.
The students that you have that, and maybe I've had 2 children come through, and most of the students that he's, like my son, he started kindergarten with he ended up graduating with probably 90% of them. Are we seeing an impact that we're making on the educational side of things, and or are we seeing that we're helping them?
Yes.
In that way?
Absolutely. The benefit of having our program is classroom teachers are required to have multiple children in their classroom. So the ability to dedicate a lot of one-on-one time or small group time is limited, unfortunately. So with our tutors being in the school, we're able to dedicate that one-on-one time, kind of stay on them a little bit more.
Right.
Last year and the year before, we had some students who were at risk for dropping out, and that put us in a position that we were able to take that role of, hey, let's get your work done, let's focus, let's go talk to the guidance counselor, make sure that everything's on course, because at the end of the day, they do want to graduate. They want to be that first graduate in their family, but it does make a big difference.
It's a generational impact, and I really appreciate the work that we do as a system, and you guys do, because whenever you can impact a kid like that, it's a generational type impact, and it can impact for years and years to come. You know, some people think that's the only way out is to go farm or go do this, but whenever we introduce other things that they can provide for their families with, it just impacts them and it's just a generational change for them.
It does, and specifically if it is one of those bigger families where they have siblings that follow,
Right.
As long as that first one can get to graduation, the other ones will follow suit.
That's right. Hey, I certainly appreciate it. And I see the impact on the eastern end of the county. There's been a lot of students come through, and we've seen a lot of them graduate, and it's really nice to see them from kindergarten all the way up, just like the children that are native to here. You see them come up, but to see people move in that have that diverse background, they really have to struggle to stay. I mean, that just shows a lot of character for them, and it shows the work that y'all are doing in order to keep them in and teach them and give them something to dream for, and I really appreciate what y'all do.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Inman, are you ready? Thank you, Ms. Powell. We appreciate that, and you did great.
Thank you.
Yes.
Very good.
Thank you.
I'm used to standing in front of one of these instead of sitting at a remote.
Well, if you want to stand, you can stand and flip that microphone around.
Watch, it's going to work seamlessly for him.
All right, good evening, everyone. As Dr. Meadows said, tonight I'll be sharing some information about the Title III program, which is formerly known as the Language Instruction for English Learners and Immigrant Students. So what is Title III? It is a component of the Every Student Succeeds Act of 2015. It is federally funded based on a completed immigrant count and an English learner head count that we submit to North Carolina Department of Public Instruction each year, and no local funding is utilized for that. The components of Title III, here for your reference, I've included the language direct from the Office of Elementary and Secondary Education. But in short, it is to help ensure that English learners, and since the majority are immigrant, I'm going to condense, attain English proficiency and high levels of academic performance. It is to help ensure that all students are meeting the same standards that are required of all students, meaning monolingual, English-only speaking students as well, that we are helping in the establishment and implementation and sustainability of English learner programs to teach children, that we are also helping them to be prepared for full immersion, meaning complete English classrooms, and that we are promoting parental, family, and community involvement. So working on that relationship between home, community, and us as a school system. So who are multilingual learners? We had a change in the language. So for legislation, we still refer to them as English learners. But in discussion as students as general, North Carolina has shifted to the term multilingual learner to represent that these are students who are linguistically and culturally diverse with knowledge and skills in multiple languages. A lot of times people feel like these students, they don't bring anything to the table. No, they do. It is just in their native language. We have students who are coming in who have been educated in a Spanish school system, whatever language. So how do we identify multilingual learners? We follow the guidelines set forth by the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction. At the first enrollment, all students complete a document, parents and guardians, known as the Home Language Survey. There are a set of questions that we ask. What language did the child learn first? What language does the parent use with the child the most? What language does the child use to communicate with others the most? Based on that, myself and Ms. Analia Cogliano, our other ESL teacher, we are charged to carry out an investigation to determine should we screen this child for services. A key distinction is that we're looking for academic language. So when we look at English, we're looking at two uses. Academic language, which is the language of school, the language of math, science, history, social studies, as well as the social language, communicating with peers, communicating with teachers. All students are academic language learners. That is a very distinct use of the English language. So we're looking more at that because students require more support to master academic English. We then determined should we screen this student, and North Carolina is part of the WIDA consortium. This is a group that develops English language proficiency assessments. We administer following the guidelines, and we then determine based on the results, does the child qualify? Does the child not qualify? Parents are notified, and parents have the right to decline services if they want to. However, the federal guidelines state that we still must assess these students to determine if they are meeting proficiency targets. And I will say it is a very tough exam. It is. There are a lot of monolingual English speakers that would not pass this test. So when we have students that reach it, it's a very significant deal for us. So where are our students from? Well, here in Columbus County Schools, the vast majority are born in the United States. They are about second generation and sometimes third generation. We tend to find that when you look at a family, the oldest sibling qualifies for ESL. The younger siblings tend not to. That is because the younger children are learning more English from the siblings. They are being immersed more into a total English environment, so they're indirectly helping their younger siblings become more successful. As far as gaining immigrant students, we have been gaining a lot of students in the past from Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, and these are students who are often cases escaping states of war, of violence, of famine that are arriving here. And then overwhelmingly, most of our students come from Mexican ancestry as well. So some of the challenges that multilingual learners face in schools, there are several. You're looking at cultural differences in food, music, manners of interaction. We're looking at the linguistic component. For those of you who might not know, English has many more vowels than Spanish does, for example. It is tricky. English is a very difficult language to learn. We're also looking at the political factors for students who are coming in, escaping persecution, refugee status, the violence, trauma of war, recent events in history, for example, in Russia and Ukraine, a lot of school systems gained students who left their country overnight, and they had to assimilate brand new country, brand new school system on top of everything else. And then again, as I said, the types of language that are being used. So some of the services that are provided, we are assisting families with enrollment and the transition to Columbus County schools. There are many students that myself, our school secretaries, we are the first people they encounter in a U.S. school. When they set foot in a school in Columbus County, that is their first example of what an American education looks like. So that's a very powerful statement, and that we're charged to be the best representatives as possible. We are providing small group and one-on-one instruction in academic language and social language as well. We're collaborating with our district personnel. For example, we have students who receive EC services as well. We're collaborating with the EC department. We are collaborating with Migrant. We're all working together to support students. And we also provide a lot of the translation and interpretation to meet the requirements to provide information in a language for non-English speaking parents. Myself, Ms. Powell, Ms. Analia, a few others, we speak fluent Spanish, so a lot of the translations and interpretations that are coming out are being done by us to meet the needs of parents. So how do we use some of our Title III funding? Well, a lot of it, as many cases, goes to salaries and staffing. It's going to supplies for our EL data management that we use over school systems to maintain records, stay up to date. We're also providing supplemental curriculum that's not available for the general student population. That step above what is already provided mainstream, specializing in teaching academic English, things that we use now and in the past, known as TEAM, Ready, Set, Go. We use a Miro Reading, which is the AI reading tutor that provides on-the-moment correction aligned to the science of reading. To align ourselves with the district, we have implemented Reading Horizons Elevate for our older students. So those students who were coming in 6th grade and above, they've missed the period where we're teaching those foundational reading skills. So we are implementing those to help those students reach the goal of becoming literate in English. And then this year, we're utilizing something called Summit K-12, which is actually allowing us to do kind of progress monitoring of English language proficiency, which is something we haven't had before. So we're very excited about that as well. Thank you for your time. As Ms. Powell said, it's a lot of collaboration together between both departments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Inman.
I have one question. I listened to this one too, but trauma-based therapy for we talked about refugees that how do we go about screening children and families for trauma-based therapy so that there's not a negative impact in our schools? And that's, it's kind of a slippery slope there, but with everything going on in the world now, we're going a huge possibility we may start getting immigrants from other countries, not just Mexico or wherever, but other countries as well. Is there do we have a trauma-based therapy that a way that we go about identifying that?
So a lot of that information we gain during the enrollment process, that we are talking with parents and we're gaining that information. And as we are gaining it, we are reaching out to our counselors. We're also making recommendations for outside services because with the language barrier, a lot of these parents are monolingual Spanish speakers, for example. So we're having to do referrals to outside organizations that have those bilingual therapists. Our student support services staff does an excellent job of helping to work with those students, so our counselors. So Dr. Piggott helping coordinate here at central office. And then, as with any child, we never know what they've been through until sometimes we see something that triggers it. And
right.
From that point, we're following the steps in place to make those referrals for those students as they happen.
And the biggest thing is I just want to always look outside the box and be prepared, and so we're not reactive to things, that we're prepared for things that come up that if you've got children that flee overnight, they end up in Riegelwood or West Columbus or wherever, that we understand where they come from, what they went through, and the trauma, because it can affect everyone around them because they can't communicate, they can't understand, and then you have other children that can't understand what they're saying, I just really want to be proactive on those type of things to make sure that, whenever we have children that we know has come from a overnight, that's come from an area that is embattled, that we do have some kind of trauma-based therapy ready and available so that, the transition is easy for them and our children, So.
Yes, sir. And one of the things that we do is we make sure that when we're gaining these students, that, of course, we're working with our guidance counselors, but we're also letting the classroom teachers know you are gaining a new student. Here are some information that you need to know to help you be aware and to be proactive as well. So it goes back to that joint partnership between everyone.
Do we run backgrounds on like any of the parents or anything like that?
No, that is information that we don't need to do our job. Under the existing statutes, regardless of your status, we provide education. That's our job, and that's what we do every day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you both.
And Ms. Powell, and I want to say, our migrant and RESL programs are excellent. We have a very small staff, but they do a lot of great work. And, they're always, anytime you need any help with a student, with translation, I had a parent conference the other day. They're willing to help and step in, and they really do a great job, all of them. So thank you for being here. We really appreciate it.
All right.
All right.
School improvement plans.
So we have the next 4 months, we get to hear from principals about their school improvement plans. We have our first 3 this evening, so we'll let Miss Christy Lenthal go first for Acme Delco.
I'm not by myself, though.
Okay.
So you're going to get to hear from 2 of us, so that way you don't get tired, because Dr. Meadows said I couldn't go past 5 minutes. So we're just going to make sure.
Mr. Phipps, would you like to pull your stop clock out?
I got it right here. We're good. Microphone. Yes, we can share. Yeah, just a little bit, please. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. And as usual, Acme Delco gets to go first because we always start with A. I say we get to go first because we're very unique. That's what I say. So on that side of it, after being there for 4 years now, it definitely is an experience and it's a wonderful place to be. So we're just going to go right on into it, guys. And we're going to talk about where we are as far as our 3-year goals are concerned. If you're going to look at it, you're going to say, wait a minute, she put her 2021, 2022 data up, still she didn't change it to 23. That's because I'm going to share that with you face to face. Our goal was for the 2022-2023 year to be at a grade level of a C, and unfortunately we did not make it. However, what do? We drop back, make a new plan, and we try again. The good news is we did meet growth in reading pretty much down the line in almost every subgroup, so we're super excited about that. Math, however, we do have some struggles, so we're actually coming back and focusing primarily on that, as well as our weaker areas as far as our continuum of learning from kindergarten through 6th grade. So that being said, I'm going to jump on in, and I'm going to say that proficiency-wise for our school, we have consistently made growth in proficiency the past 3 years. So we're excited about that, but we know we've got to have a good balance between our proficiency rate as well as our growth rate in order to achieve where we need to go at this time. So we're going to jump into goal number 1, and it's going to say that each grade level will achieve 5 to 7% growth in math by the end of the 2023-2024 school year by providing Tier 1 instruction aligned with county pacing, assessing students, and analyzing data to implement these intervention groups. So if you're looking through, and I'm not going to read everything to you, I'm going to kind of hit things and go on because we have quite a bit to cover, and Dr. Meadows said 5 minutes. So we're definitely going to be teaching through our core math program, which is N2 Math with Fidelity. We're going to use our supplemental programs with Fidelity as well, including iStation and iReady. We are actually also adding to this one, which we just found out very recently, that we're going to be adding iExcel, that we're going to have this as well for our school in grades 3 through 6. Which also has a math component and a reading component. We have identified all our students now as in Tier 2 and Tier 3, and we'll be taking appropriate action from that point on through the MTSS process. Our intervention blocks have been established, and they are in progress already, meaning that we are diving down into our data. We are actually going down into our students, finding the maybe one piece they didn't get to try to go ahead and have them work to learn and overcome the deficiency they have so that way they can continue to move on and be successful. We have consistent PLCs every week, and I can tell you right now, Ms. Lenthal says, no, I'm not going to be there tomorrow, we're going to do them on Thursday. Or we're going to have something happen, no, we're going to do them on a different day, because we believe in having that consistently to have teachers as well as review data from our students. Our classroom walkthroughs are in place, and our observation data is already in place, as well as for personally, as the principal, I've added additional walkthroughs in for a concentrated area of 5th and 6th grade, because that's what we have determined is our weak area at the school. So we're going to have to put some concentrated efforts there to make things grow and improve. We're actually starting what we call peer observations with the teachers, or we can say instructional rounds. So the teachers are actually getting to go in and view other teachers to share ideas only. So you're going to go in and watch a teacher, maybe whether you're a new teacher, whether you're a veteran teacher, whether you're a teacher that might be struggling in certain areas, and have an opportunity to watch a successful teacher in certain areas to be able to take some ideas away and take them back with you to your classroom. We are doing small group instruction as well already, so that way we can hit groups and target them, because sometimes whole group instruction just doesn't work. So we have to do what works for our students, and that's the primary thing there. Our data trackers, we're going to be using those as well. We're going to have them to progress, to monitor our students' progress, but also our teachers like to use this to compare from grade level to grade level and year to year, so that we can have that as far as focusing into our math. One thing I didn't say that should be on here was that we are adding an extra math intervention this year in addition to what we already have in place, because that is the area that we declined in growth in this past year. So therefore, we're putting our emphasis right back there and bring our levels back up again to have those higher growth marks for our school. At this time, I'm going to introduce for our second goal, our instructional coach, Wendy Daniels.
Okay, I'm Wendy Daniels, and these are 3-year goals. So we've been working on them for the last 3 years. And we just made changes as where we felt was necessary. Goal 2 is each grade level will achieve 5 to 7% growth in reading by the end of the 2023-2024 school year by providing Tier 1 instruction aligned with the county pacing, assessing students, and analyzing data to implement intervention groups. And so, like I stated before, we've been working on these particular goals. This is our last year working on these goals. Of course, it would be continuous, but this is the ones we had set for this particular school improvement plan. One thing that we're doing is we're making sure that we are teaching the core reading programs, which is Into Reading, with Fidelity. That's our core program, and we're making sure that we are aligning our lessons with the standards and using the Into Reading curriculum. We are using implemental programs as well. We're using the Reading Horizons and the iReady for the upper grades, and we're doing it with Fidelity. So we just got a new update in Reading Horizons, so we're making sure that all the teachers know how to use the new changes in Reading Horizons, and we have another course coming up this week, no, the 18th. And teachers will get further instruction on how to use Reading Horizons. It's a great program, and it will help the students gain the foundations they need to be successful readers. We have also just completed our Science of Reading training. This has been a 2-year program that the teachers have been involved in, and this really gave them a really good, solid foundation in helping students learn how to read. So we're super excited that that has been completed, because last year we found that having PD, it sometimes was too much for the teachers because they already had so much. But now that we have that under our belt, we'll be able to provide them with other PD that can help them in their classroom with classroom instruction. We also had several teachers complete the Rethink Blended Learning course, and we are now implementing blended learning in all of our classrooms. Last year, we started with having the teachers to implement at least one blended learning strategy in each classroom. So we are complete, and we're working well with blended learning in the classrooms. And if you don't know, it's just making sure we're meeting the needs of all the students and helping them be engaged in classroom instruction. We are doing small group instruction for all of our students, because just like Ms. Linthal said earlier, some students will not learn from direct instruction. Some need to have hands-on. Some need to have it presented in a different way that fits their learning style. So we're making sure that those small groups are taking place in the classroom for reading for our students. We also, this is something new that we decided to implement this year. We are implementing portfolios. This is a reading portfolio. Students are asked to do a reading portfolio in 3rd grade where they read passages on their standards. And we've noticed that in the data that the students had actually declined in 4th grade and 5th grade, but they did so well in 3rd grade. And we think it's because 3rd grade is they're doing a lot of reading. They have built stamina. They're reading all the time with these reading passages. So we've decided to implement reading passages for 3rd grade through 6th grade this year. And we're pulling those from iReady, the iReady teaching toolbox. Also on here, we have intervention blocks. Intervention blocks are available and are up and running in every classroom. We just had PD on MTSS process and the difference between small groups and intervention groups. PLCs are in place, and she stated that earlier. We're doing classroom walkthroughs and just making sure that right now we're working on procedures and expectations. Has the teacher set the expectations and the procedures in the classroom? Making sure that there's little downtime in the classroom, that we're utilizing all of our classroom time for classroom instruction. And again, we're doing the peer observations, which she stated earlier. This was something that we've tried to do in the past, but we're actually getting it done this year, and teachers are really excited about it. They're getting new ideas and strategies from their peers, and that was important to us. And again, we're using the data trackers so that teachers can use that data to drive their classroom instruction. We also have DIBBLES. It's a program, amplifies the program that we use to assess students, to progress monitor them from grades K to grades 4. And that's it for reading. That was a lot, I'm sorry. Okay, so goal 3, if you're watching your paper, we have our parent involvement. It says we will increase parental involvement in community partnerships by 5% per year from 2021 to 2022 school year to the end of the 2023-2024 school year by promoting opportunities for volunteers, inviting parents to open house, conducting curriculum nights, and holding other events that encourage parents and community members to attend. This is something that we've been working on across the county as a whole with parental involvement, and trying to make sure we're creating opportunities for our parents to come in and partner with us to help us educate their students and just support their students. We are communicating with our parents through the CCS app. We have Remind. Teachers are sending newsletters home. We have parent surveys to find out what more do parents want to see in the school, and find out how do they feel about the school. Parent-teacher conferences. We just had one across the county. Everybody had to take the day, and from 12 to 7, we came to work, and we made sure that parents we were available so parents could come and check on the progress of their students. We also have open house in Title I night, parent night, award days, parent academy every 9 weeks. That's through the county. PTSO, progress reports, and report cards. And something else that we're adding to this would be a new thing that we're trying to do, just to pull from every avenue that we can. We're creating a new school website. It's not on there, but we've been working on this website. And on this website, parents will be able to sign up for events and activities at their convenience. So when they have the time, they can sign up whenever they feel that they'll be available. So we found out through that parent advisory meeting, that's what they were wanting, and so that's what we're going to give them.
And I'm going to jump in right behind her real quick. We are transitioning to student-led conferences next semester, where we're going to have a training period where the students are actually going to be the ones holding their conferences to their parents, which is going to hold them basically accountable. This is why this has happened, Mom. This is what we've done in class. Here's examples of what we've done. So that way you have a different setup with it. I've experienced that in several districts I've worked in. And so I think it's going to be a great thing for them to be able to have that ownership of what they've achieved in that classroom. And at the same time, besides parent being involved, I also want to stress the community being involved.
Yes.
We have a strong partnership with our community churches, businesses. I cannot tell you right now the number of agencies that came in over the summer and did things in the school. And that's something we want to do. While we've got those great agencies working with us, that's great, but I need those parents to come in too. So that's kind of where we're coming in with that side of it as well. I just wanted to add that in. Didn't mean to hijack it.
No, that was
All right, goal 4. Each subgroup will achieve 5 to 7% growth by the end of the 2023-2024 school year by providing interventions, implementing morning meetings, and providing support services to individual students based on need. One of the things I think you guys heard from one of the last board meetings was from Angela Mendel and the resiliency training that she was given to us. We have been a part of that now. We trained out last year. We are now in our full second year, and we decided to go as a school upon vote that we're going to implement morning meetings, which is 15 minutes every day. And that being said, I extended our school day by 15 minutes at our school. So the kids start at 7:45. From 7:45 to 8 o'clock, they have what they call a morning meeting where they get to go in. They get to discuss about how they're feeling that morning. They get to discuss about how they're sharing with their friends. They get a moment to just go around the room and be a part of their actual environment to release maybe some of the things that are holding them back from learning. So they get a moment to have that, as well as just a time to be present with the teacher without being in an instructional mode per se. Now granted, the teacher is guiding some of the instruction, however, with that discussion, the discussion tends to lead to the students so they can discuss how they're feeling, what's happening. And the kids are not forced to do it. They can volunteer. They can say pass if they don't want to participate at that point in time. But it gives them an opportunity to do that as well, following within the resiliency piece that we're using. This also frees their minds for when they do start their academics during the day. You would be surprised at how many kids come to you and they're just not ready. Something's happened. I forgot my stuff at home. Mama was running late for work. All the different things that apply to that. Oh, I'm sorry. That's my topic.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. It's okay. So we want to try to give every avenue for these students to have that time to release those things so their minds are free to be able to learn and take in the things that they need. We do have an interventionist going to be starting later this month who's going to come in, who's going to work primarily with 3 grade levels. We're saying 3, 5, and 6 this time, but we do have flexibility to adjust as needed when it comes to that place, working in both math and in reading. We're using resource teachers as well. When they are not having classes, we're going to provide them to provide instructional support for our students as well to come in and provide interventions based on their specific needs. There again, drilling down to what those students need, to where that way they have what they need to be successful academically, as well as helping our whole child grow. With that being said, you have a lot of things we've just presented to you. I know it's a lot, and I was longer than 5 minutes. I'm sorry. Any questions we can address?
I've got a couple, and I'm gonna make them. Well, one's gonna be a question, one's gonna be a statement.
Okay.
Question 1: out of your 3, it says you have 312 students.
Mm-hmm.
How many parent conferences did you have last week?
Wow.
We had a really nice turnout. I don't have the exact number.
50%, 40%.
I would say based on the numbers that we saw when sign-in sheets came in, I saw between 10 to 12, sometimes 15, depending on the class. And that was by class of the literally 2 per grade level, except I have a combination in 1, 2. So we had a great turnout as far as that's concerned.
You want us to give you a percentage?
Just roughly, yeah.
I think safe to bet 70.
You think we have
70?
I think right 70.
Okay. Well, that's a great way to measure your parental engagement, and
Really good. It really was.
that is that. And I mean, we changed the whole layout of that workday for that very reason.
Right.
So so. All you other guys, be prepared for that question as well.
One thing I do know, we had to call it at 7 o'clock because they were coming.
They were still coming.
So that was a good thing.
Well, maybe we take that, and next year it's 12 to 8 instead of 11 to 7.
Oh, wonderful. My man.
Yeah, I mean.
Weenie.
The next thing, it's a statement, and it's a statement for all of our schools. Everybody here, we place so much focus on our underperforming students that we ignore and forget our overperforming students. Okay? I've seen it. I've seen it for 5 years here, and I've seen it for 25 years. Well, no, let me rephrase that. I've seen it since 2003, when No Child Left Behind started. And I'm not going to, get into a political debate or philosophical debate on No Child Left Behind, but we put so much focus on our underperformers, and they need focus. I'm not saying that they don't, but we don't have enough time in the day. We don't have enough resources. We don't have enough people to challenge our overperforming students. And that is a flaw in public education today. So please try to make sure you are focusing and putting some focus on your overperforming students, because this year they may be overperforming at 25%. Next year it may be 15%.
If we don't, we will lose what has been gained.
You're absolutely
And
correct.
so that's why we said 5 to 7 in all categories.
And also that blended learning that we were talking about, that's why we're doing it, because it will give you a space to meet those students right where they are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I was very happy to see the blended learning stuff and the integration of blended learning. So I think it's a necessity. Some people would say it's a necessary evil, but I say it's a necessity because we have to challenge every student, no matter what their level is. We have to challenge every student to learn every day. So, and with
I'll
that,
also add, coming back to your parent conferences for just a second, even after we had to close doors, so to speak, we had parents calling and making appointments.
great.
And so that's something that I was like, go ahead, write it down. We'll have that time, have a virtual appointment. We had many of those that occurred the same way too. So just having them there was very important, and I'm so glad, and I'll say this because I think I was one of the principals that asked for it. I'm glad we're doing this because it's great for have the parents back in the building and be there with the teachers to be able to have those conversations, and next time with the students.
If they're involved,
The student, kudos for that.
Yeah.
I think that'll go a long way, them taking ownership and actually, stating what they've learned and what.
Any other questions? Dr. Meadows is over the time of me.
I got one more.
Okay.
So you said you had a decline in one subject. Was it a subject? What did you tell me you had a decline
We
in?
had a decline in our growth.
In the growth?
And that was in pretty much overall, it was in math, which is why we didn't make growth with math. And truthfully, I think we believe that's because we did put the higher emphasis on reading and slipped away from our math interventions, which guess what, we're right back on it because we don't have time to back up on that as well. We need to make sure we're giving it just as much, if not more now, than we do with our reading interventions. And at the same time, we're hoping that having the foundations training for math, I have about 5 of mine who have already been trained, and I've got more teachers that will be trained as well, and they're going to be sharing things with each other to be able to use that for instruction.
So then the same effect's not gonna happen to reading this year?
I hope not. We're trying to get a good balance. That's our
And I say that all to say that it's always, and even in my business, in my life, whenever something's going wrong, we want to try to do new stuff and different things. And I don't always believe in that. I believe in maybe what you were doing last year was fine. Just 1 or 2 things you need to tweak. So don't, my advice is not to overthink it because we have so many tools. Sometimes I believe too many tools. So don't overthink it.
I believe that was the first thing I shared with our school improvement team when we started discussing our goals. I said what we were doing was working.
Yes.
Okay, so let's not change and reinvent the wheel. Let's just take what we've got and make it better.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Ms.
Thank you.
Lenthal. Mr. Bland and Chadburn Elementary, you're up. And I think he has a friend with him too. For support. Ms. Spalding, thank you for being here. Whenever you're ready. Don't know what Eddie's doing, so you go right ahead.
All right. Good evening, board members. My name is Herman Bland. This is my first year, so be gentle. That's all I'm going to say about that.
We're always gentle, Mr. Bland.
All right, good. Keep that same thought, all right? So our school improvement goal highlights. Our school improvement goal highlights, the first one is that we intend to improve student learning growth and proficiency in reading, math, and in science. We want to increase our school performance grade. We want to exit low performance status. And we also want to increase parent engagement in student learning outcomes. And you have our data before you. And I'm going to start at the bottom and go up. Okay? All right. So in 2018 to 2019, our school performance grade was 51, which equaled out to be a grade of D. And our school growth score was 63.8%. And our school growth status we did not meet in 2018, 2019. And then the pandemic happened. And so in 2021 through 2022, we were, there it is. After coming out of the pandemic, we saw a major decrease at Chadburn Elementary School, and our school performance grade went from 42, which was a grade level of D,
There you go.
And then our school growth score was 56%, and we did not meet growth that year as well. And then in 2022, which was last school year, our schools soared. We were at 52 for a school performance grade of D, and we were 3 points away from becoming a C school with a school growth score of 73.4. We did not meet proficiency in one area, and when we looked at our data, it actually turned out to be in 5th grade math.
But you
all
met
the other
overall
areas-
growth.
Say it again?
You met overall growth.
Right.
Yeah.
Upcoming goal for this year. I'm not there yet. At the top.
I know, but it says in 22-23, not met. You met growth this past year. The school met growth this last year.
We made it in reading, but not in math.
But not in math. Overall.
Overall, you did.
Overall, we did.
Mhm.
But we met it in math. We didn't meet it in math.
No.
Okay. Well, my typo. Okay. All right. Again, this is my first year.
Give yourself credit.
Thank you. All right.
Yeah.
Celebration. So anyway, our goal this year is to become a C school, and we hope to grow above 55% with our performance grade, and we want to increase to a 78 or greater. All right. And on the back of your paper is our improvement indicators and our action steps. And so the first thing that we would like to do as a school is increase data collection so that we are tracking student learning growth across the school and across the school year. And we intend on using M-Class, Dibbles, iReady, iStation. We want to use the results from the NC check-ins, our data trackers as well. Another area that we are working on is using data to identify areas of learning support and intervention. We have already created our our intervention blocks. We made sure that those were in our overall master schedule. And so our teachers are readily working with the students in intervention. Also, we have changed some people's roles in our MTSS process. Ms. Spalding is our MTSS chair now, and so she's working to try to rebuild that so that we are making sure that we're getting in contact with all the students that need to go through that process. We use data to drive our school instructions. We are meeting in PLCs weekly. We are conducting walkthroughs. Ms. Spalding is doing coaching cycles with our new teachers. Right now we have 2 new teachers in 2nd grade, another new teacher in 4th, and another new teacher in 5th. And Ms. Spalding is working closely with those teachers, her and Ms. Casey Waddell. We want to increase our effectiveness and distributive leadership across our school, which in PLCs, our teachers are taking more of a leadership role in PLCs. It's not just coming from me, but our teachers are actively taking a leadership role in that. We are integrating more technology to support student learning. We're doing blended learning. If you come to our school on a daily basis, you will see our teachers. They are working in small groups with our students. The kids have individual projects that they're working on. They're working on technology in the classroom. We're building a culture that makes it safe for all students to learn and grow at our school. Resiliency training is coming our way. Every classroom just about has a calming corner for students that have issues with hyperactivity, with behavior issues. We all have, they all have a classroom their classroom set up and is ready for learning. We also have our academic advisory program that's getting ready to go out starting on next week, and that's where our students are going to take a look at their own data, its attendance, their overall classroom performance on their reading, math, and science. But whenever they get their progress reports, they're going to be looking at their progress report grade and then go back again and look at their grades whenever report cards come out, and then they'll be able to take that information home and have that discussion with their parents, because the academic advisor is going to call their parent and have a conversation with their parent and let them know, this is the information that your child has presented to me, and now I want to present this to you as a parent. We also want to enhance parent connection to school and student learning. We're sending out weekly communications. We are planning curriculum nights for our parents, and also the academic advisory will be calling our parents as well. We want to also increase stakeholder involvement in our school improvement efforts through Title I nights, our curriculum nights, and our parent advisory board. And we're happy to say that we have established a PTA again at Chavern Elementary School. Any questions?
Is attendance, how's your attendance? Do you have quite a few that?
That is a great question. So right now we have at least 10 students that we have identified that have attendance issues, and either me or Ms. Spalding, we make sure that we are on top of that every day. And if we have a student that hasn't been in our school in at least 2 days, then I'm on the phone calling that parent, asking why that kiddo is not in school, because that's one of the things that I want the parents to know, that if the kiddo is not in school and in one day, that it's almost like missing a week of instruction. And I feel like that we're getting a lot of our parents to now understand the importance of the kid being in school, and not just being in school, but also being there on time.
Absolutely. Anybody else?
Questions?
Well, I think that you know, going from the slides there, the school has been on the increase.
Yes.
I've known you for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I know how good of an educator you are, and I trust that when the scores come back in, we will see an increase.
Well, the thing about it, Mr. Coleman, I'm not alone in this. I have been very fortunate to come to Chavern Elementary School, because the educators, especially with Ms. Spalding being our lead teacher, they have been working their tails off,
yes, sir,
for lack of a better word. And I will not be able to take the credit for what they have done at the end of this school year, because the same work that they have put in on last school year is the same work that they're putting out this year.
Well, I think everyone on the board can say that in the last year and a half or so, the school has done like a 180 there. And it's great to see the community involvement, and it's great to see the excitement there. And like I said, I was at the store today, and I heard a parent, I talked about you at the store today. So just, hey, do what comes natural.
Yeah.
And you know, I think y'all are headed in the right direction.
We hope to see all of you at our fall festival. This will be a first for
And when is
Chavern
that?
Elementary, November the 9th.
November the 9th.
Yes.
Will you put that on our calendar for us?
Yep.
Yes, that is a brand new activity that's being put out by our PTO.
Just one comment I have.
Yes, sir.
I think the data tracker, I'm a data guy, and I think just seeing that data, I think you said the students would be starting to see that.
Yes, sir.
That where you would see it before the end of the, when you get your report card.
Right.
That would be very beneficial to them.
Thank you.
They'll meet with their academic advisors. They'll set a goal at progress report time for the report card, come back and meet with the advisor again to see if they've met that goal. They're going to chart those results to see if they've met those, not only with the grades, but with their attendance as well. So it holds them accountable. Their parents will then become accountable also. Those advisors will be calling parents. So it's going to be a three-way communication between everybody. It's going to be great.
So,
We did it last year. We plan to improve and do even more this year with it.
So tell us more about the academic advisor. Who is this? How many do they have to
So you're looking at two of them right here. But it's all of our certified staff members and even our non-certified staff members. Some of our classified staff members are also going to be academic advisors. The only two that I think that we decided not to use was our music teacher and our art teacher, and that's because they are part-time. So even you may even come out there and see our custodian talking with one of our students, because our kids, they look up to each adult that's in that building, and I feel like each one of them can make an impact whenever they sit down and look at the kids' progress, because the kids are they're the ones that's responsible for collecting that data, and the adult is just there to go over that data with them.
So this is a teacher different from their teacher?
Yes, sir.
Correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so any one of you have how many students that you're advising like that?
We only have about between 4 and 5.
So then it's just students that are low performing?
No, it's all students. All students.
Well, you have to explain that math to me. So you only got 4 or 5, but yet y'all can.
So the focus right now is on our 3 through 5 students.
Right.
Okay.
Not kindergarten through fifth
Gotcha.
grade. It's 3rd through 5. I
Right.
should have said that.
Yeah.
You there you go, Mr. Worley.
Because
Okay.
I was fixing to ask you how much. When were y'all doing this? At midnight or when? So
Okay, got it. Yes,
Very good.
Yes.
And Miss Spalding, in her math background, she's gonna have them all drawn graphs and charting.
Everyone graphs, yes.
Yes, yes. All right, thank you guys, we
Thank y'all.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We do appreciate that.
All right, next we have Dr.
Next
Hill
on the hot seat.
from Hallsborough Artesia.
It's just me, sorry. I didn't bring an entourage. Bring lots of paper. And if anybody knows any hills, will know that 5 minutes is a really short amount of time to say what we need to say, so.
We just finished with your brother earlier, so we know exactly what you
I know he
mean.
went over 5 minutes, didn't he?
Yes.
I know he did, yeah. It's okay. We come by honest. So, good evening. I am Kaylee Hill. I'm actually the principal at Hallsborough Artesia Elementary School. And I have a slideshow, but before that, I am a visual learner at best. I think that's how I learned, so that's how I, in my mind, kind of brainstorm how things are going to go. So one of the things I did when I first got to Hallsborough is I really wanted to get a lay of the land, if that makes sense. I haven't been there. I'm coming in, so what does that look like for me? What's currently going on in that school? What are ways that we can improve? What are we doing that's actually working? So this is kind of a brain map that I did for myself. I went over and analyzed kind of the things that were going on in the school that I felt like, this is the data that I pulled. So obviously the stack of paper is all the data that I pulled. But I pulled all the data, kind of sat there with it for a little bit, and came up with some objectives, strategies, and then some action steps for me going forward at this school. What does this look like? So kind of just skipping over and going to give a broad overview here. When you go to actions, one of the things that I've heard repetitively throughout my time at Hallsborough has been to provide feedback to my teachers and to be there for my teachers. And what does that look like as an instructional leader? And how does that look like as a managerial leader in that building? So, of course, that means being present, doing walkthroughs, seeing the teachers in action, seeing the students in action. Sometimes that may mean getting on the floor and actually doing an activity with a student, which, by the way, if you see me in pre-K on the floor, just ignore how I have to get up now at my age. But I do get up and I do get on the floor, and I even have my own little book there where I'm doing my letters just like little pre-K kids are in my own book. So that's what my action steps are. That is just a brief overview. It's not really something to discuss with the SIT plan, but I wanted you guys to see kind of, I guess, how my mind works and how this is going to play out in our SIT plan. So if we turn over to the presentation, this is my actual SIT presentation. I'm going to try the lovely slideshow. Thank you. So this is our school improvement plan for Hallsborough Artesia Elementary School. One of the things that we did at the very beginning of this school year was do a needs assessment together. I was actually in the room, but not an active participant in this. I just wanted to make sure that the needs assessment was done. A needs assessment is done through IndaStar, and it basically it just shows where your teachers and where the school and the parents that are involved in the school improvement feel that we're doing things really well and where we need to improve. And you build upon a plan based upon that needs assessment. So we did a needs assessment to begin with, and then we came up with our goals based upon that needs assessment and all of this data right here that I shared with them as well. One of the things I did do was update our mission and vision at Hallsborough Artesia. Not that I felt like there was anything wrong with it, but I do feel like maybe we need to move into a little bit more of the 21st learning. We're coming out of COVID. How does that look? I mean, nothing could prepare us for the pandemic. And how did this affect our students? So I did update our mission and vision as well as our values for the school. So we have 3 kind of umbrella goals that I kind of chunked in my mind. So goal number 1 is, and this is based upon the needs assessment, every student at Hallsborough Artesia will use the school's positive behavior intervention and support model to engage students. If they're not behaving, they're not learning, point blank. If they're not able to, if they don't feel rewarded, again, you talked about kind of that underdog. Well, if the kid's doing really well, we need to reward those students for doing really well in the classroom. The other one is the goal number 2 was to be placed in instructional tiers to address the academic and behavioral needs of students, specifically our level 2 and level 1 and level 2 students. Those students that might need a little bit more support in the classroom, how does that look? And then number 3, the other one, obviously our overall goal at the school is to go from a D to a C. So as everyone knows probably in this room by now, Hallsborough Artesia was less than a point from becoming a C level school. It was kind of like getting tackled on the 1-yard line at the end of the game. That's what I equate it to. Like, you can taste it, but it's not quite there yet. And it's like I told my teachers, guys, we have the ingredients to make a mastered meal. Now let's go in the kitchen and let's cook that meal together, because I do believe that we actually do have all those ingredients there, just with a little bit of some tweaking. So it's kind of small here, but I actually did snippets of our goals, and I'm going to go through them a little bit with you guys this evening. I'm going to find my notes. So the first one is that all teachers will employ effective classroom management. Again, this goes back to PBIS. That includes rules and procedures. So one of the things that I learned when we first got here, and Ms. Hunter is actually the one who gave me this line, if it's predictable, it's preventable with a plan. And it is literally my motto this year. And so I have that with students, and I've said it with teachers as well. Let's make a plan for positive behavior in our classrooms. So one of the things that we're going to start by doing is our PBIS model again. I've actually formulated a team with PBIS, that's Positive Behavior Supports, and they're going to work alongside with the SIT team to ensure that we're actually following through with those. A lot of times, K2, it seems to be a little bit easier, but then getting 3.5 or 3.6, and the kids, they're not going to go for that. So what is it that drives those kids to be positive in behavior in those classrooms? So that is one of the things we're doing. Also at the school, we're going to do resiliency training. That has not been done at Hallsborough Artesia yet. And so we're actually on the schedule to get that training together as well. Oh, went too far. The next goal goes along with social and emotional learning. Again, I'm a big believer that if we can give the kid the best lesson, but if they're not meeting their social and emotional needs, we're not able to truly teach that child. So one of the things that we're going to do is kind of be more attentive to their social and emotional needs. So what does that look like exactly? Well, at Hallsborough Artesia, we're going to start a check-in, check-out system. It's very similar to what you've heard about this evening a little bit. These are going to be children that we identify that may need a little bit more support. We all had that one teacher in school that we identified with the most. It might not have been your current teacher, but we all had that one teacher that meant something to us. So for that kid that may be struggling, they might want to go back and just check in with that one teacher. Maybe it's for grades, maybe it's for behavior. So they're actually going to have a folder, and they go to that teacher and they literally just check in with that teacher. And that teacher says, how are you doing? How are things going? What do you need help with? So it's a check-in, check-out system for basically social and emotional learning. Now, does that entail grades? Of course, yes. If a kid is struggling with grades as well, that is definitely a topic of conversation to have in that check-in, check-out system. It'll be done the last few minutes on a Friday, but it can be done more frequently than that based upon the child's need. I mean, the teacher, during their planning period, can call on that child and just say, hey, how are things going with you? What do you need? Are your basic needs met at home? Those are things we have to do in order to educate a child. So the third goal is the principal monitors curriculum and instruction regularly, but also provides clear, timely feedback to teachers. So one of the things that I've done since I've come to Hallsborough is I've talked a little bit about the teacher working condition survey. I like the teacher working condition survey because it gives me a clear eye of what teachers are actually feeling, but nobody wants to wait 2 years to get those results. So one of the things that I've started to do is do many teacher working condition surveys throughout the year. Those are going to be just small snippets. They're not meant to be punitive. And they're unanimous as well. And the teachers can provide feedback on that domain in which we're going to be going over. That way it's not a gotcha in the end of 2 years when all of a sudden you're going, oh, I didn't know that's how they felt, or oh, this is what my teachers need in order to feel supported. So that's one of the things that I'm starting to do. The other one is I have a large number of new staff at Hallsborough Artesia. So I'm doing mentoring meetings with not just my new staff members, my BTs or my beginning teachers, but also my veteran teachers that are there. So my BTs, I will meet with them at least twice a week for 15 minutes. Again, it's kind of like the student check-in, check-out system. But for my veteran staff as well, I want them to also feel like for once a week they can come to me and do that same check-in and check-out system and feel supported. And then lastly, of course, I do have a lead teacher, and she actually, along with myself, we attend PLCs. Those happen every Wednesday. At the same token, if it doesn't work and that schedule doesn't work on a Wednesday, we'll make it on Tuesdays. It doesn't matter what day of the week as long as we're talking about students, we're talking about data, and that's driving our instruction in the classrooms. So the next one is that the leadership team monitors and analyzes results in the early warning system. So one of the things that I've noticed when I first came to Hallsborough Artesia was the amount of early checkouts seems to be a problem. So
Ms. Spalding brought that up last year.
Yes.
Especially on Friday afternoons, correct?
Yes, it does tend to be a problem. So I'm actually tracking that.
Yep.
And I'm tracking those ones that are, I guess, more frequent than others as far as checking out. So one of the things that I've started to do is actually conference with those parents when they're coming to check those children out and say, you do realize your child is missing, and if I know it's 5th grade, then they're missing 5th grade math right now. And that's obviously one of our weaker subjects. So another thing that I'm doing is I'm also going to become part of the attendance meetings. I think that's really important when our school social workers are having those attendance meetings to have the principal there. If they've missed 5 or more absences, then the principal needs to be in that room as well. And it can be just a phone call, but just to say, okay, you know, this is equivalent for this much time. And then I pull that data for early checkouts and for absentees at least once a week and look at that as well to see, okay, do we have a common denominator here? I think that's really important. That kind of goes with data trackers for myself as well as for the students. Obviously, too, for identifying some of the academics, we're going to be using data trackers. And I think it's really important to say that we're going to use data trackers, but we're going to use it to drive our instruction. It's one thing to put the data in a spreadsheet, but it's another to use it to drive your instruction. So I think it's really important to look and see, okay, this child missed phoneme segmentation. I need to go back and reteach that information for that student, or else they're not going to be able to sound out words later on down the line when they get to an unfamiliar word. So I think that the data trackers are really important, but I think then you have to take that information in your PLCs and have those conversations about how are we going to use that data to drive our instruction in our classrooms. Again, though, one of the other things that I'm doing, and I'm going to get to it later, but I'll say it now, is my teachers are actually going into other teachers' classrooms to see how are they teaching. I think that's really important. It's not a punitive thing. It's not to say, oh, I gotcha, but it's to see, oh, is this working in your classroom? How are you teaching this? Those are really good conversations to have because none of us are perfect at everything that we do, and that includes our teachers. So, you know, one teacher may teach a subject or one teacher may teach a portion of a subject better than other teachers. So I would like for our teachers to do that. And so Ms. Karcher and I have actually gone ahead and made a schedule, and we have some 2nd grade teachers going to 1st grade classrooms next week since that's the closest age that they have right now, and just to see how does that look in their classrooms. How does that blended learning look? How do those transitions look? What can I do differently? At the same token, I'll have third grade go into second grade. Same kind of concept. The next one is that the LEA in school regularly looks at school performance data and observation data, but uses it to basically improve the school. Again, one of the things that I've kind of heard overall from my teachers, a lot of them have never really been trained on EVOS. I think that's really important because we look at the kids and that gives us a projection of where we think the kids could go. Now, that's not the end-all be-all. But one of the things I want to do is personally myself get better trained on EVOS because I know it, but not necessarily to the benefit that I probably should in order to train the teachers so they can know how to pull up their own data and see where are kids at, where are we projected to go. And that was obviously especially important in grades 3 through 6. The other thing, again, is doing those mentoring observations. My lead teacher is really doing coaching sessions right now with our brand new teachers especially. She's been in those classrooms every single day during their flooding schedule. It's what we call it, but basically their pull-out schedule or their small groups. And she's in there to ensure that the teachers know how to do those and do them with fidelity. What does that look like? If I'm pulling a group, what are my other students doing throughout that classroom? So that's part of the conversation as well, is those coaching sessions that she's doing. I have 2 more goals, and then this one is recruiting of teachers and replacing staff. And again, I think this goes back, we talked about the teacher working conditions mini surveys. I think that is crucially important to keeping your staff happy, knowing where they're at, knowing how they feel, and making adjustments if need be. At the same token, I do think that we need to foster the teachers that we do have currently in the building. And that goes back to those mentoring meetings that we're going to do. I do think word of mouth is extremely important. So I always encourage, if anyone knows of anyone that's looking, I'm always looking, I will look. But I do think that keeping your staff happy and mentoring them to their best of ability is extremely important. And that was something that my needs assessment demonstrated as well for my teachers.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
You mentioned that. The instructional or the lead teacher and the teacher, how are they working with the teacher assistants as well?
So that's a really good question, actually. We talked about that a little bit today. So our teacher assistants in years past have been moving from room to room to do small group instruction, which for me did not seem like the best use of their time. So after going in and seeing their schedule and seeing and talking to the teacher assistants, a lot of them felt more comfortable staying within their grade levels per se. So the way I've set it up now, kindergarten assistants are part of that small group instruction, and they'll go to this kindergarten classroom, and then after that small group instruction, they move to the other kindergarten classroom. So to me, that makes things very cohesive. Another thing that we're doing is we're doing common planning on Thursdays, because my motto is work smarter, not always harder. So when you have teachers that are commonly planning together, the idea is what's going on in this kindergarten classroom is also going into the kindergarten classroom next door. So those teacher assistants would then have this, they would be doing the same exact things in the next classroom over.
The reason I mention that is just like the Grow Your Own program, the teacher assistants.
Yes.
What the focus is specifically on this.
Yep. So the Grow Your Own program, which was new to me, one of the things that I've been doing is trying to give them a little bit more leadership roles, more of the instructional piece as well. They need to have a voice. I think that's extremely important. So one of the things I actually did when we first got our data back from the previous years, I had PLCs with the teachers, but then I also had a TA PLC as well for my non-certified staff, because I felt like that is very important. They are an integral part of the school as well, and they're a part of that conversation, and they need to know, okay, we were less than a point from a C. What does that look like? How can we grow them? How can I also help in this? So I think having that unity is very important, and giving them a voice is very important. You're welcome. So the last thing was parent engagement, which is one of my favorite topics, actually, if you can tell. So one of the things that we're doing is I did create a new website for Hallsborough Artesia. I tried to make it a little bit more family-friendly, user-friendly, I should say. We are having curriculum nights. Of course, I've had open house and I had picnic with the principal, which I felt was a really good success, and I will intend to do it again. I think I want to do it bigger next year. So somebody just let Jess know he's going to have to make more hot dogs. But we also have a parent advisory board. That was extremely important, and we had our first meeting. It lasted over 2.5 hours.
Wow.
But it was a very good meeting, and it was a very, how can I say this? It was good to hear what they needed and how I could improve in the school as well, and where they saw some of our flaws, and it gave them a voice. And I even got text messages the next day thanking me for that meeting. The other thing that we're doing, obviously, the parent conference day, I even texted Dr. Meadows the very next day. It was a huge success at Hallsborough. I actually had the teachers turn into me prior to the day their schedule, so I could see how many parents were, they had scheduled to meet with, and the teachers actually, for about a week and a half prior, contacted those parents. Can you come at this time? And a lot of my teachers sent home a letter, circle the times that you can come, and they filled it in. So when I'm done, I would say I had almost about 80% of my parents come out that day. And again, it also gave them a chance for me to be there and for them to see me as well. And I think that's really important to have that conversations, and they can see that, I'm right there, feet in the ground with them. And this is just how we're going to have to get things done. We're going to work together. The other thing that I would like to do that I'm going to steal from Ms. Lenthal is going to be the student-led conferences. So I'm going to go to Acme Delco when she starts one of those, because I really do love that idea. And she always invites me anyway. So I'm going to come out and look at her student-led conferences, because while that's not on our SIP plan, that is definitely something I would love to see Hallsborough do. And I think that empowers the students and, again, gives them voices as well. It gets buy-in from your students, your parents, and your teachers. All right. Do we have any questions?
I just have one comment, and this is for everybody. Everything that I've heard is engagement, expectations, and accountability. Our children and our teachers, if we set high expectations, they will reach them. If you set low expectations, they're going to reach them too. The engagement that we get from all of our children, all of our teachers, all of our staff. The most important people in our whole district is our bus drivers. They're the first ones to see our babies when they get on the bus. The last one to see them. So I'm excited. I was telling the board, a few of the members before the meeting, it's been very quiet. And that's a good thing. I think there's a lot of people excited about things that are going on. All of our schools have got some momentum of some sort going. And engagement, expectations, and accountability for everyone in the building. That is the most important thing that we can do. And every one of you touched on it. And that's something that, it means a lot. And I'm looking forward to the end of the year so we can kind of see where we're going with this.
Thank you.
I'll say this. I had a mentor of mine that made the comment one time to me, and it stuck with me, and it was about 15 years ago. We're data rich, but knowledge poor. And I think you're driving, using your data to drive, because I hear from throughout this entire county how much data tracking. That's all I hear. But I appreciate the fact that you're going to require your teachers to use that information to drive the instruction. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Hill. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Mr. Bland, we appreciate it. Ms. Spalding.
Now, you guys can't leave yet, so y'all all got to stick around and wait.
Don't look at us like that.
I'm good. I'll stick around. Listen, they have to kick me out at work, so it's good.
Okay.
So this next.
Mr. Ward, come on down.
He's here for support.
He's here for support. I'm going to present. So
It didn't take long for Kimmy to rope you in.
So we do have two estimates for Williams Township Gym, but before we look at those estimates, which you can look at the first one for renovations and upgrades, this project's going to be substantially more than just replacing the gym floor and the bleachers. So I want to share these photos with you. I'll do it quickly.
We've had conversations individually, and it's like I know I told Chris this. To just replace this floor is nothing more than buying a Lamborghini and putting it under a tobacco barn.
Right.
So let's do what we got to do.
Okay, well then, with that being said, we do have,
I do want to, so the public needs to know, because the public doesn't always get to go into the gym and see. And so I think Mr. Beck does need to explain the concerns around the gym that we have.
Okay.
Okay?
okay, so as this picture shows, the masonry in the wall towards the science wing, the old science hall, it has been compromised. That's where moisture has gotten in. And I'll show this. That's the facial boards. You can see that those need replacing as well. That's the outside of the wall of the gym, exactly where the masonry has been compromised. So you can see those cracks as well. That's facial boards, of course. Okay, so this.
You'll go back to the floor
Mm-hmm.
just to make sure.
Okay. And of course, this happened during the last tropical event that we had with all of the substantial rain and moisture.
And just to make sure that everybody is clear, the school year started, the floor did not look like this. The floor was fine, it was resurfaced, and it was fine. This all occurred after the school year started with a tremendous amount of rain is our assumption, or my assumption, as to why the floor is now like this.
Actually occurred over a weekend.
Yeah.
Over a weekend. And then being proactive, and just for your knowledge, we also have included some pictures of the old automatic structure. It was built in approximately 1938. If we're going to continue to use it to house the classrooms that it's currently housing, which are the arts, CTE, and the media center, it's also going to need some substantial repairs in the future, particularly a new roof and the facial and windows. Okay, so if you look at the renovations and upgrades, and Mr. Ward, feel free to jump in at any time. For renovations and upgrades, we're looking at a total cost of $1,138,129.10. Now, of course, this is an estimate that Mr. Ward has developed based on the needs to bring the current facility up to date and hopefully fix the underlying cause of the moisture and make sure that everything is up to code. So we're looking at $1,138,000 approximately. And then we have a replacement estimate, which would include an 80 by 150 foot building, 22 feet high, which would be pre-engineered metal, and everything that would need to be installed in that building comes to a total of $1,990,000. So those are the two estimates that we're bringing to the board for discussion.
The new building would be in a different spot. Is that correct?
It would actually probably need to be put where the bus parking is now.
Right.
And then demo the existing gym, make a new bus park. That would be.
All that water from the main building is draining right through
This
there.
problem began when the new building was built because, of course, it's elevated. And we've been fighting this issue for several years, nothing this bad. We
Right.
actually replaced about a fourth of the floor a few years ago, and then we had to put a dehumidifier under it. But now it's just, you just can't keep the water out from under it. When we got a big storm, flash flood or storm rain, it just goes under it. It doesn't stand under it. Next day it's gone, but it's enough moisture.
It's the humidity of it.
Yep.
It's just, all that wood just holds that
That was
humidity.
my understanding, seeing that too. Moving it would eliminate the runoff.
Right, because we actually looked under the building just like a day or two after the rain, The water's not standing, but you could tell where it cut gullies under it, where it was running under it so hard.
Well, and keep in mind, out of this $1.99 million, so basically let's round it off to $2 million. $250,000 of it's dealing with the old building.
Yes.
So, yeah, I mean,
And insurance, it's supposed to cover the floor. Still up in the air whether we can use it on a new floor in a new building. But I think we can.
We should be able to.
I think we can.
Because if we put it right there in the same spot, it's not, I mean, we're just gonna fight this thing for another 5 or 10 years and spend
Right.
another $1 million on it.
well, if we go in and we put in a new floor, we put in new dehumidifiers and everything else, we've still got a 60-year-old roof.
Still got a 1930.
Well, I mean, we've still got a 1938 building.
It was built, it's 48, the home eg's 38, so
Oh, okay.
1948, which is still substantial.
Old design.
It
Old
is.
and
Well, I mean, Eddie, I don't count birthdays anymore either. So, all right.
And there's a
48,
there's a couple
58,
more
it doesn't
issues
matter.
that have actually came to light in the last few days. The front home ec building Mr. Beck's talking about, the front part of that building is the old 1938 building part. Got 3 rooms in it. The gym actually has 1 classroom. If we would actually could somehow put 4 classrooms in this structure, we could be taking out 2 buildings. And this home ec building that we're speaking of has some air quality issues.
Can we get 4 classrooms into this new building?
Have to put a fire partition in it, and a set of fire doors.
Okay.
That would increase the price by about how much?
And actually, I throwed something together real quickly this afternoon. Just kind of and I'll if y'all don't see it, I'll show it to you.
Please.
And just something to think about, because I mean, we don't even have a design. We probably need to
Yeah, the plan is to get a committee and look at
This is just something I
designs.
threw together this afternoon. Don't pay any attention to scales and all that stuff.
We're talking about the building right behind the gym, I mean, right in front of the gym.
We can look together,
We can
Timmy.
share.
No, that building is the old science building, which is now ECAIG. The home ec building is beside the fire department.
Over there.
It's in front of the cafeteria.
So, and I'm gonna just say this,
Okay.
the building right there at the gym, that's terrible to us.
Yeah.
I mean, that's bad.
The one closest to the gym, it needs some work, but at least it does have a newer roof.
Yeah. This is
It can probably be
And
cleaned
it's got
up.
new windows. In
Yes, new
2013,
windows.
there was new windows put in that building. That building can be salvaged for a few more years.
The HVAC.
Media center, probably also. But if we do the gym and the 3 classrooms I'm talking about and demo this old home ec building, when we do get ready to build a media center, it will be a lot closer to the main building. We could actually put it up in that area.
Right.
At some point.
This right here, and it's obviously on there, I know it's on there, but the pricing that we've got here, that includes making this a gymatorium?
Yes.
Okay.
It's on the, if you'll go to the next page, you have to unclip it, because
Yeah, I saw
I had to use
it.
2 pages to try to get it all, where we could
And when
all
you-
see it, where I could see it.
And when you say gymnatorium, you're talking what's at West Columbus School, Tabor City School.
And Old Dock.
And Old Dock,
Just
which
the
doesn't
stage.
have bleachers though, but
Right.
would have
Would have
bleachers. That's what you're
bleachers.
talking about.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, we don't have an auditorium that.
I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page
Yeah.
as to what that means.
Well, let
And
me
keep
ask
in
a
mind,
question.
all of this is just something I came up with.
One difference in this arrangement by having the stage at the end, I think is a little bit better than the designs we have at the other 2 schools. And having bleachers on both sides, I like this layout better than our others.
Yep, I do as
And I
well.
do have one typo, I had 100 foot wide, it's only 80, so I just noticed that. But by doing it this way, if we're going to do the classrooms, it will basically be 2 buildings. And that connection between the 2 buildings will actually be the fire separation. So,
Since we're all saying definitely, this was created by the last tropical event, what's the chances of getting some insurance coverage on it?
You submitted it, and the only thing that they have said they would cover
Well,
at
the
this
only
point
thing
is the
I
floor.
actually turned in was the floor,
Okay.
because that's really all that was damaged.
But if we
I
take
mean,
the floor
they would
out-
make us,
Oh, yeah, he's up.
yeah, when we
That's
go-
$100,000.
Yeah. And he's done that already.
Yeah,
They've,
we've
they've
submitted
s-
that.
we've submitted that part of it.
Okay, now, we aren't gonna be in a situation like we were at Old Dock where they say you've gotta put the money in this facility.
as long as we use it, I think as long as we use it on the same property. The problem we had at Old Dock was we
We're talking about
were
moving
talking about
properties.
moving to another
Properties.
location.
Yeah, we weren't gonna rebuild in
We
the
had to
same- or they
rebuild
weren't
on
gonna
that
rebuild in the
location.
same
We
place.
couldn't take it and say move to the county and build another school.
Yeah.
No.
We had to use the money on that property.
Every dime's a dime.
Also, Mr. Timmy, on even these renovation upgrades to fix it back, the upkeep and continuation of that building, even if you get the dehumidifiers under there and all of those options, it's more equipment, more electricity use. The wiring in that building is atrocious, and I know that the electricity efficiency of it's terrible.
And if we go to,
What's the ROI on the difference? $10, 15 years?
well, if you do it, and renovations, like you said, I mean, it's just continues. We replace the building, I mean, we're looking
Yeah, so, I
many
mean,
years. I mean, we're looking at many years on a new building, so.
right. But what I'm saying is, what we'll save in electricity cost, in, efficiency, from
Definitely. I mean,
HVAC
you'll
and
have a
everything
building that's
else.
well insulated, where now
Yeah.
we're trying to cool a building that's not insulated.
And you're
So,
eliminating another
10
factor.
years will make up that 800,000? I mean, that's 80,000 a year.
That's a good guess.
Well, and you're eliminating another bad building there and
Right.
some classrooms that's gonna be returned.
With fixing it, refurbishing it, and you screwed the pooch again, and here we go again next
Right.
year. So, I mean,
Well,
I think that fixing this building should not even come across anybody's mind. It is a total embarrassment to me, and it should be to every member of this board and everybody in there, that any one of our buildings at any of our schools ever look like this during the middle of the school year. It's a dangerous, there's kids still in there having classes, and I mean, anything could happen. There's no sense in it. And I'm not fussing at nobody on this board, I'm just fussing at the whole process of this thing. There's no sense in a building at any of our campuses looking like this that we're supposed to educate our children in. Not nary bit. And that goes from South Columbus all the way to Delco to West Columbus. There ain't a school building out here that should look like that. And it's ridiculous. That burnt me up the other day.
now keep in mind, it will be a metal building now. It's not gonna be,
Not gonna be brick.
brick and mortar, and it will look nice.
It's better than what we got now.
It will, it won't have a lot of bells and whistles, but it will be a nice functional building.
Right.
Do you see any disadvantages in a pre-engineered building versus a block and mortar?
I do not,
Is an old dock a pre-engineered building? Or is it a,
no.
No. It's probably, is it tilled up concrete walls?
It's those rough face.
Split face
block.
block.
All right, so what's our recommendation here?
Well, so obviously, we have to go back and ask for bids, put something out to get
Sure.
bids
Well,
back
first, we're
in.
gonna have to have an engineer give us something for people to bid on.
That's right.
Because these are actually current cost of projects that we've done
Sure.
like this. So we're gonna have to actually get a design, get
Get
an
a bid.
engineer to actually put his seal on it.
now, design, I know we don't have a design exactly what we're looking for, but we should be able to find one that we don't have to pay that money on.
Well, we
We have to have an engineer.
have to have an engineer.
Right.
Don't have to have an architect.
Right.
So-
But as far as the design and the prints, we should be able to.
Well, that's what the
find
engineer,
something.
that's what the engineer's gonna do for it.
Right,
The metal structure itself will be pre-engineered.
right.
But everything we put inside the building,
Yeah.
mechanical, electrical, walls, will have to be engineered.
So will that be Shostak? No.
We're gonna probably get somebody local to do it, because we're talking, you can add at least a third to this cost if we go that route. And of course, we wouldn't build a metal building either. I mean, and I'll be right honest with you, if we have to go to school planning with it, they're gonna turn their nose up at a metal building. They do. I don't know why, but they
It's
do.
on their website and approved. It's approved for the use of the steel. building.
Right, it
I
is,
checked that.
it is. But for some reason, they frown on them.
Tell
But-
school planning to send us all the money that we need
Exactly.
so that we can do
You know,
it the way they want it done, so that they don't have to turn their nose up at it. Otherwise.
Well,
Sit down and stay quiet in the back.
One other option, along with the engineering, is you can do a
Design build where you interview 3 to 4, ever how many you want. You interview a contractor, a general contractor that will do a design build, and he hires the engineer and anybody else that's needed. To me, that's the way to go, because then you got the man that's going to be doing the work and pricing the work, helping drive how it's being designed.
I agree.
So basically, what we're asking for, the board to approve or to consider, is allowing us to put out for bids or quotes on building a new gym with these 4 classrooms attached to the building. And then we would bring back bids once we actually have bids.
And we probably need some kind of committee. I mean, me, one of the board, some people from the school, from the foundation, to kind of get together, because we want to have everybody to have their input. And because, so we want to try to make everybody happy. We know we're not going to, but at the same time, we want everybody to kind of feel like they had some input. We just didn't go stick a building up for them.
So we can do that first as a part of this process, though.
Right.
In terms of once we get that committee makes a decision, then we have the board's approval to move forward with getting bids and bringing those back to the board for approval once we get those bids.
Are you
So
gonna
that
have?
we're not having to come back every
Right.
month
Right.
with something waiting for the next meeting for approval.
Dr. Meadows, I would also like to send all these pictures and stuff just to the commissioners, just in case we need to go to them for, I mean, this is a catastrophic event that was out of our hands. And I mean, I think if we send it over to them, they may be able to help us out some with this.
And we're actually going to have to, they're going to have to be involved in this, because that property still belongs to them.
Yeah.
In their name.
Yep.
I will make sure I send all
So
these
they're going to have to be
pictures.
involved in this.
Okay.
Since when we built a new school, we had to turn it over to them.
Okay.
You don't have Williams Township, do you?
I don't.
Just Chris.
Just Chris. So Chris needs to be on a committee.
That's fine. Okay.
Yeah. So I think Chris being on the committee with, and you pull in, the community stakeholders there, that'll be your group, your your educational foundation.
If you'll make contact with,
Eddie and I'll do
Okay.
that.
All right.
Mr. Beck and I'll do that.
Any kind of just wild guess on a timeline of getting to a quote? Just absolutely, I used to.
it's kind of
Something like
dependent
that.
on interviewing a contractor, or if we're going to go with design build and them getting actually something to bid on.
Yeah.
That's going to be,
right. Yeah. And that's what I mean to that.
Right.
Getting where we're down,
I would hope we could do it before the first of the year anyway.
Oh, well, that's quicker than I thought, yeah.
that's going to be your fastest method, is a
Right.
design
Without
build.
doubt. Absolutely.
Right. And when that's what we'll shoot for, we'll shoot for the first of the year and try to have something that we can come back with.
Since you got 2 new schools built, I mean, you just need another major project to start off this year.
Yeah, I mean, it keeps life exciting.
When you come back, the rest of that here is gonna be gone.
Yeah, I'm almost to get door lock finished with door lock, like one school. Now we'll pick up something else. I'll be glad to do it if we can get it something new and modern. We'll do everything we can.
All right. So, your recommendation.
My recommendation is that the board approve for the administration to have a community committee to ensure the plan that we want for the building, and then to move forward with a bid process for replacing the Williams Township gym and having a building attached with 4 classrooms.
Okay. You've heard the recommendation from the superintendent that we approve the formation of a committee to evaluate potential replacements for the Williams Township gym, and also proceeding with looking at bids for that project.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Coleman, second by Mr. Enzer. Any discussion? Question. How are we going to determine the community members?
I think between probably some parent advisory members.
Okay.
Maybe the people the leaders of the foundation.
Okay.
And then some of their staff from their school improvement team.
I think that Wendell and the foundation and Chris could probably come up with 5 or 6 people together real quick.
I mean, they're the people that the board has put in leadership roles, or the parent advisory. The school improvement team is who the staff has put in leadership roles, and then the foundation has put their officers in leadership roles. So, I mean, and then of course Mr. Duncan and. Yeah, I mean, that's where I would go to, are the people that have been placed in leadership positions.
Because the reason I ask, it doesn't matter which part of Columbus County, somebody's not going to like it.
Well, it ain't for them.
And they said, I wasn't invited to help make the decision. So, yeah, I just want to make sure we solidify that process.
Yeah. And I think, we probably need to have, also invite whoever the commissioner, Brent Watts, and is there another one that also represents that area?
That would be Brent.
And just Brent?
No, Ricky.
Ricky Bulls.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right, Brent and Ricky.
Okay, so we could invite the 2 of them to participate as well.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, I got one more question, and I don't know that it's discussion on this motion, but are we absolutely sure that this building is safe for our students, teachers? From what I saw when I was there, to be in it? Do we need an engineer, somebody licensed to go in there and tell us it's safe to use?
Like we did with
Look at the floor.
It shouldn't be being used.
I mean,
they shouldn't be using it.
Well, that's my point. And if they
Because it's a hazard. You've seen the pictures of the floor.
We need to put a lock
Even if you block off that part of it, there's a child who's going.
We need to have an evaluation on that building.
We need to put a lock on.
We've cleaned out the gym table middle.
We did that at Evergreen.
That might be another motion.
I think that's a separate motion.
Okay.
I believe that's a separate motion outside of this.
We might not even need to make a motion on that. We might just they just need to go put a lock on the door and then.
Well, it's going to cost us, so we've got to it's less than 30,000. No.
Yeah, no, it didn't, the engineer that we hired it the last
Yeah, it
time, we
wouldn't be
didn't.
more than.
It's not more than what I can
Right.
approve.
Yeah.
All right. Any further discussion? All in favor of said motion, let it be known by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Worley, Mr. Beck, and Dr. Meadows, we expect a full functional gym by January 1 from you.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Next one.
Guess you're gonna fire us on January 1.
Do you have a tool belt?
I know it's gonna be tough.
What is it in the statement that we should aim high?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
If it's predictable, it's preventable.
Yeah, it's predictable that we're not gonna have a building up by January 1.
Never hurts.
Possible, but not probable.
That's right.
Okay, so
right.
next on the agenda, we have a proposal for a surplus sale on November the 3rd with a tentative time of 12 p.m. And if you will look at the document, there are 81 items on that document for you to review.
So, Mr. Chair, I'd recommend that the board approve having a surplus sale on November the 3rd, right? Is that what we said, at noon?
Okay. I've heard the recommendation from the superintendent that we approve Columbus County Schools to have a surplus sale on November 3rd, 2023 at Hallsboro. What's
Maintenance.
maintenance
Services.
maintenance services?
Yeah, Hallsboro Facility Service.
Yeah, Hallsboro Facility Services at noon. What's the pleasure of the board? Motion by Mr. Coleman, second by Mr. Long. Any discussion? All in favor, let it be known by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
What kind of shape's that 250 in?
Believe me, you don't want any vehicle that we sell.
Boy,
We get the life out of
we
it.
don't want him advertising.
Yeah, okay.
They're great vehicles, great
I can
vehicles.
tell
Come
you
out
it
and buy
needs paint.
some.
See, it needs paint.
Come out and buy one, Mr. Long.
Thank you, Mr. Ward.
Do I?
You give me a list of the surplus.
I will. I'll
Okay.
get it to you in the morning.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. We
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Go to class. You're late.
We're not going to let you keep coming back.
There's a bad record.
Oh, okay. All right.
Thank you, sir. Okay,
All right.
moving right along, next we have a memorandum of understanding between Columbus County and the Columbus County Board of Education for a shelter agreement. This corresponds with the Red Cross agreement that we approved at the last board meeting. Mr. Phipps, do you have anything to add about the shelter agreement as it is written?
As far as correction of it, it's fine.
Okay.
The only thing I would like to, for us to, and this probably to go back to them, the last time we used East Columbus as a shelter, it flooded and we had to move. And we still had people go in there. And, I mean, we just need to make sure that they are communicating how emergency services or whatever to people that if one is unavailable or if it's flooded and we need to go somewhere else, that it's done, because that night I took someone there and they couldn't get in there and I couldn't get to Whiteville and they ended up sleeping in my house, so.
Okay, we will make sure that,
The shelter is moved to Mr. Coleman's house.
and communication is discussed in this document, so we will make sure that that is followed.
So, Mr. Chair, I recommend that the board approve the shelter agreement between Columbus County Schools and Columbus County.
You've heard the recommendation from the superintendent that we approve the shelter agreement between Columbus County Schools and Columbus County. What's the pleasure of the board? Motion by Mr. Enzer, second by Mr. Long. Any discussion? All in favor of said motion, let it be known by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, next we have the review of information for Tabor City School. We paid invoice number 81123B in the amount of $49,564.03. That was paid to Universal Equipment Company. We also paid pay application number 20 to Monteith in the amount of $83,730.02. And then we paid invoice number 5052 to Security IP Solutions in the amount of $42,439.85.
Okay.
Okay. Next, we have a proposal for Trident Beverage Incorporated proposal. It is for our Smart Snack frozen slushies. And the document that was included on the board agenda did have an error. It had an expiration date of 7/31/2023. I do have the new document, and it has a current date of 8/31/24. No, 7/31/2024.
But the prices are still the same.
The prices are still the same. There was $1.50.
So, Mr. Chairman, I recommend that the board approve the slushy contract with Trident beverage.
You've heard the recommendation from the superintendent that we approve the slushy contract with Trident Beverage. What's the pleasure of the board?
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mr. Coleman, second by Mr. Long. Any discussion?
This is not just on that, but just about food in general. The food that we do serve is so that we get government funding from this for serving the particular types of food that we serve.
Now, we don't on like a la carte
I'm
items.
talking about like our lunches and stuff like
yeah.
that. I mean, we have to serve a certain,
Yes.
in
That's
order to
correct.
keep that government funding.
That is correct.
Yeah.
What, just for the next meeting, I would just like to know how much each student would have to pay or whatever if we got them something different, what it would cost us. I just want to know.
Well, what are you wanting different? First of all, we have to follow the Healthy Child Act, the federal law that says you cannot serve like fried foods. You have to provide whole wheat. You have
That's
to
what I'm talking about.
Yeah, we can't, we would have to, yeah, you can't.
That's government.
Legally. That's a federal rule.
And that cost us our federal
We would get no
funding.
funding.
That's what, we would get zero funding from the federal government at all if we went away from that food.
Yep, and what do we get, what's our child nutrition budget? Like 3 or 4 million?
Yes.
Jack, this 50, you can cover that for us next year, so we can get some good food. Okay.
Grow up for you.
That's good.
What's really disheartening with it though is you have all these criteria on the food and yet you can get it from a vendor and it's still food that's, a lot of it's zapped in a microwave. It is not healthy food, it's junk.
A lot of our students.
But because it's been stamped by somebody to say it meets that requirement, that's what we got to do.
We need to send an email to some people then. Dirty.
Send it to your congressmen and senators in Washington, D.C.
Yep.
They will not listen to it.
Because they don't care.
That's right.
All right. Any further discussion?
No, sir, thank you.
All in favor of said motion, let it be known by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
All right, the next one is some additions to the testing calendar. This is for the check-ins. So the check-in now, we're learning more about it. We still don't know completely, but it will be used as a way to, for the end-of-year assessment, that it will, they will be given a specific form of the EOG based on their progress on the check-ins. But it's supposed to still calculate the same way, so we will see. But,
So we're gonna test them on their level and not where they should be, is that what you're saying? Test them on their level?
well, that's what the claim is by DPI. We're still trying to learn some more on it, but that's why we have to have check-ins. That's why we're doing check-ins, is for that process. So we've been doing check-ins.
Right.
Because they do give data to the teachers to know which standards kids have not learned over the course of the 9 weeks.
Did legislation give them the authority to, because now it sounds like this is going to become mandatory. And my knowledge, the bills that I've read is limited to the number of testing that we'll have, that the legislatures have said we have to have.
Right, and it's around the EOGs and the EOCs, and that's what this ties into that. My hope is that it gives us the right information to help to be sure that we're assessing the right, or we're
I hope so.
instructing in the right areas.
I hope so too, but you're saying they're going to piggyback this off of EOGs and call it one test.
They call it an NCPAT, the North Carolina Personal Assessment something.
We could increase our instruction time by 25% if we eliminate state mandated testing.
And that is, it's state and federal. The federal government requires it as well. So.
All right.
All right, so I recommend that the board approve these items added to the testing calendar.
You've heard the recommendation from the superintendent that we approve the items added to the testing calendar for check-ins. What's the pleasure of the board? Motion by Mr. Long, second by Mr. Coleman. Any discussion? All in favor of said motion, let it be known by the sign of aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
All right, you have some additions for school advisory members from Mr. Long and Mr. Coleman, so I'd recommend that the board approve those recommendations.
Heard the recommendation from the superintendent that we approve the advisory board appointments for Mr. Long and Mr. Coleman. What's the pleasure of the board?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Worley, second by Mr. Coleman. Any discussion? All in favor of said motion, let it be known by the sign of aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay. Mr. Bell.
Okay, if you will, look at policy 4130, transportation. At the beginning of the year, we have had several concerns about this policy. We have addressed those with the parents as far as transportation. According to our current board policy, if you look at G, if the student does not reside within the assignment area of the school, the student will attend. The parent, legal guardian, or legal custodian must agree to provide transportation to and from school. So that's the policy as it is written right now. What we are looking at changing and proposing is if the student does not reside within the assignment area of the school, the student will attend. The parent, legal guardian, or legal custodian must agree to provide transportation to and from school. An exception will be made if the transportation requested by a parent, legal guardian, or legal custodian is within the assignment area of the school in which the student attends.
Can we simplify that and just say,
Mr. Phipps?
if the student does not reside within the assignment area of the school, and the student will attend, the parent, legal guardian, or legal custodian must agree to provide transportation to and from school. To and from school. Well, no, let's leave it like that. I mean, I'm thinking, my thought is,
That's what we've done in the past. We've always, if they go somewhere that's outside of it, they have to provide transportation.
well, and that's what I'm saying. If it's outside of the district of where they are assigned, then they have to provide it. But we will provide it within the district.
Within the district,
Yep.
I think we provide.
So if little Jenny's gonna get off at Dr. Meadows' house, and they're in the same district, and everybody agrees to it, the bus will take my little Jenny to your house and drop them off.
Right.
Because you taking care of.
So a parent asks for their child to be transferred from Williams Township to Old Dock.
Correct.
Okay? They live in Williams Township's district, but they're going to go, the board approves for them to go to Old Dock, all right? They want to the parent wants them to be dropped off at a babysitter's or a grandparent's house in Old Dock's district. This would allow for us to put them on the bus and let them have transportation to the house within Old Dock's district, because that's where they've been assigned for that one school year.
And yet it maintains the integrity of the policy and
Not
if
taking them outside.
Exactly.
Right.
So
Right.
that's why it's a little lengthy.
Yeah, I mean, you got to have the length to it to encompass both things.
Because the policy previously was that if they asked for a transfer, we provided no transportation. If they went outside of their house, outside of their residency district, somewhere else within in the county, we still didn't provide transportation.
This one here allows us to provide it within the area
District,
that they
yep.
are in, even if it's not their home area.
Right.
That's right.
And it also safeguards efficiency.
Well, I mean, I would think that was the original intent anyway. I mean, maybe I'm oversimplifying
Well, it
things.
just weren't spelled out.
But,
It don't spell
I mean,
out.
if it says we will not provide transportation, you know, my assumption was we're not going to provide transportation to home from outside a school district.
And I think that was everyone's, but this is kind of the first time it's ever been brought up.
Right.
Hey, I'm gonna use a babysitter
Right.
in that district. You can just drop them off right there.
Grandma.
Right,
Yep.
grandma or whoever.
Yep.
yeah.
So,
So, Mr. Chairman, I recommend that the board approve the change to the policy 4130 discretionary admission.
Now, one more question. That they would have to put that on file at some point in the year, or they have to bring a note every day?
No, they would fill out a transportation form at whatever point they decide that they're going to be
Right, using
dropped off
that.
at that address, and turn that in so that that's put into the system.
Until further notice.
Yeah.
It'd be a drop ad form for transportation.
you've heard the recommendation from the superintendent that we approve the change to policy 4130 regarding transportation. What's the pleasure of the board?
So move.
Motion by Mr. Worley,
Second.
second by Mr. Long. Any further discussion?
The only thing I'm gonna, and it's got something to do with transportation, but it don't, but, I've just been getting a lot of calls about the lengths of the line at Williams.
Let's approve this policy.
Okay,
before
well,
we talk
okay,
about that.
I just didn't wanna,
Scott,
it's
yeah.
not on there, I didn't want to.
We'll
Yeah,
discuss
okay.
it, but let's get the policy approved.
Okay.
Okay. All in favor of said policy or said motion, let it be known by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. All right, Randy.
Well, I just got a call about the link that like, the kids are, because some of them go to, like, the high school and some of them go to the middle school, and I mean, they may get there at 7:30 or 7:45, and it's after 8 o'clock before they can get through the line, I don't
So I've
see
gotten
it a whole
a
lot.
similar call, and I watched the cameras for about 4 mornings. I went back and checked the cameras, and there was not a line except for one morning, which there was some fog. And so I can understand why it would be a delay.
Okay.
But otherwise, the line has been cleared by 8 o'clock. So if they're late, it's not because of the line.
The main problem is we backed it up to 7:30 to start unloading kids, but we still have a lot of parents that want to come in at 7:50 and expect to roll through the line. And if everybody's showing up at 7:50, we've defeated the purpose of starting earlier.
Right.
So what I have noticed, it's been the first week or two was bad, but it's got better.
And it's always bad at every school because everybody's bringing their kids to school, but then they start to calm down and, yeah.
And I do know for a fact that staff presence is way more than it's ever been as far as helping them get unloaded.
Every city looks like a NASCAR race. I've started to go around there and try to track.
West Columbus School looks like a parking lot. Because everybody, I mean, literally, people start showing up at 12:30 in the afternoon for a 3 o'clock pickup. And they just park.
Well,
so.
All right, so the next item, I recommend that the board approve the overnight or out-of-state field trips, out-of-state for Williams Township and overnight for Nakina Middle, as presented on the agenda.
You've heard the recommendation from the superintendent that we approve the out-of-state school trip for first grade at Williams Township School and the overnight out-of-state school trip for Nakina Middle School Junior Beta Club. What's the pleasure of the board?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Long. Second by Mr. Enzer. Any discussion?
I got one question. I was looking at the Nakina trip, and it's, and I'm all for it, but it's $530 a kid. Are they gonna do some fundraising or to help all the kids out?
Yep.
That's next.
Yep. They do fundraisers. They've already
Free to
done,
them if they didn't got it.
yeah, they've already done some, and they have more. They were on their original fundraiser list.
Okay, so they had them on there. Great, no problem.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor of said motion, let it be known by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
All right, the next one is a fundraiser request for the Beta Club, but it actually isn't fundraising for that. It's actually fundraising to support a service, because as a part of Beta Club, they have to do service projects. So, but since it is a fundraiser, the board has to approve it. So I recommend that the board approve this additional fundraiser for Nakina Middle School.
You've heard the recommendation from the superintendent that we approve the fundraiser request for Nakina Middle School Junior Beta Club. What's the pleasure of the board?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Long, second by Mr. Enzer. Any discussion? All in favor of said motion, let it be known by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
All right. The next item is a proposal, and the reason it came up was concerns around teacher morale. You all know I have a teacher advisory that I meet with every month, and I met with them the week before last, and they also had brought up some concerns around morale, and I asked them, tell me, what are issues around morale? And they said it's really about time, that they don't have time to do what they need to get done. I had a couple of them say that they actually know of teachers who have taken days off because to do work and use their own leave time to be able to do that. So in the meeting, proposal was thrown out about if a teacher had perfect attendance during a month or during a couple of, absence reporting periods, that we would pay for a sub for them to have a work day that they could then get work done. And the teachers said that they thought that was a good idea. So I had Jay pulled some data for me about last year. I think the intent of this is to help morale by giving time, also to increase attendance of staff by giving them, if they have perfect attendance, then they would be able to get this day for free, no charge to them for their leave. We would cover a sub for them to do, their work. There were significant, the cost of subs last year, total cost of substitutes was around $800,000. If we were to give, so we're proposing 3.5 days that a teacher could earn over the year of work days without being charged leave if they had perfect attendance all year. And that cost to us, if every teacher took advantage of it for the 3.5 days, would be about $250,000. So it would save us potentially on the cost of substitutes, give teachers time, they're not having to use their leave time to take a day off. Obviously, there would be some stipulations in that, unfortunately, most of the time, people take off Mondays and Fridays, so getting subs on those days are tough. So we would use only Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays for them to take advantage of this. They would still have to come to work because it's not giving them a day off, it's giving them time to do work, whether it's grading papers, making phone calls to parents, making lesson plans. It's a day for them to do work and us cover a substitute, giving them time. Because remember, the school calendar is set by legislation. And our school calendar, because we have a start date that is set as the Monday closest to August 25th, and the Friday, we end before the Friday closest to June 9th, has to fit within that. The student days have to fit within that. Most of our work days are outside of those days. There were 7 at the beginning of the year, and I think 4 at the end, and there's 16 total, 16 total, maybe 17 total. So we have 2 in the year that are parent conference days now. So it really doesn't leave days for them to have. There's an optional work day, the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, and there's a day, the day before Christmas break. And so those really aren't days that people are going to spend doing that anyway.
Nope.
So this was a suggestion, a proposal that I would ask that the board approve, so that we can, see how it works for the year and see if it increases morale and gives them time and increases attendance.
This is a question. This cannot be carried over year to year?
No.
I will make sure we put it in the.
Well, it says they have to use it in the next 2 reporting periods.
Right, I would just make sure.
So that it's, now, the
they
last
understand
two reporting periods would carry over to the first two in the next school year because there would be there's
right,
no time to
okay,
use it for
okay.
the last two reporting periods. So, so we've already had 2 reporting periods, which were small, and we didn't advertise this, so people didn't know. So we said they could get a half a day for those 2 periods. It's not really even 2 full months because of when it started. It started at the beginning of August. And then the next 2 reporting periods you can see in there. So the first one was July 30th, basically through September 30th. All right, they can earn a half a day if they had perfect attendance. Then it's October 1st to November 2nd, or December 2nd, excuse me, would be a full day. December 3rd through February 3rd, February 4th through April 6th, and April 7th through June 13th. It should have said 4.5 days, sorry. So it's a way for them to earn that time, and they have to use it in that next reporting period, next 2 reporting periods. Does that make sense?
Well, I would just, I know, like if I was a teacher, I'd say, man, I could hog these things up, but as long as we just make that clear that you've got to take them, you can't carry them 5 or 6 over to the next year or whatever.
Right. Right.
So this is basically December, 3-month periods, is that?
It's really 2 months. It's 2 absence reporting periods, basically, and those are usually anywhere from 20 to 25 days in a reporting period, depending on what that month has in it.
If you accomplish what you're set out to, you go improve attendance, and you go take care of morale, plus it'll give them the opportunity to lead by example.
Right.
So I think it's a good thing.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you've heard the recommendation from the superintendent that we approve the workday plan that she has placed in front of us. What is the pleasure of the board?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Enzer, second by Mr. Long. Any further discussion? All in favor of said proposal, let it be known by the sign of aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. The next one is, I don't know that it really needs approval, but I'm just sharing with you. We had discussion as a leadership team, just concerns about maybe the way that people viewed the central office. And, our role in whether it's here in this building or at transportation or maintenance, technology, we're here for support. We're here to provide services to our schools. And we want people to realize that and recognize that is what our role is. So we would like to say district-wide that this is central services, it's maintenance services, transportation services, technology services, instead of central office. I know sometimes people think, well, words don't really matter, but I think at times they do. The leadership team thinks at times that they do. And so, unless somebody has issue with it, we were going to just push forward and.
I don't think it requires us to approve it, but.
So we're going to start calling you central service?
Central services. That's what this is called, central services.
Okay.
Okay?
I'm fine with that.
All right.
Man.
You've got
I'm good with it.
a calendar in front of you of items. We will add the November date for the Fall Festival at Chadburn to your calendar.
Please add the NCSBA annual meeting
Okay.
there as well.
Okay. All right, Mr. Stanley.
Okay. The good news to report that the state, we do have a budget that's been enacted into law on October 3rd, recommending several salary schedules for your approval. Tonight, if you click on that link, you can see all the salary schedules here. The first one is the district administration salary schedule for 23-24, the state provided 4% increases, salary increases across the board. And this schedule reflects that. Now, our base amount for all the schedules stayed the same. We didn't increase that. We just increased from what folks were making last year to this year, 4%. There is an exception to that with buses, but that first schedule reflects a 4% increase for all the district administration salaries. The next schedule, non-certified schedule, it's grades 50 all the way through 78. Again, the base stays the same, 4% increase across the board. Pretty few files. Interesting. Did y'all get that, Aaron?
Jay, Mr. Stanley, I just noticed on here, which I did not notice before, that the scale should not go to 42 on the non-certified. It should only go to 35.
Okay, now this was the way it was the previous year as well.
No, well, we had purposefully collapsed that.
Right.
Yeah, I thought we had to.
I can't get to the old right here in front of me, but maybe I can try another way. Is it 35?
Mm-hmm.
Administration goes to 35.
Yep.
Interesting. I didn't add rows. I just did 4% over. So it may be the spreadsheet I was working from.
Yeah,
It might be the one that came out of, did you pull it straight out of?
I pulled it from Lisa's files. That's where I pulled it from. So I don't know.
She might be gone.
And I was using Excel, and so I just copied and pasted
okay.
from Excel. I didn't use the PDF document that
Do
was out there.
you have to have approval on this tonight?
We would like to pay the October pay increases in October.
So
I
could
mean, we could just revise my recommendation just to go through level 35.
Okay.
And could we just say that that we recommend that the board approve
Increase
based
4%.
on the state budget, which is a 4% increase for the district administration, non-certified salary, bus drivers, as well as a 2% increase for bus drivers, right?
You got it. That was one I was going to point out. It's on page 7 of 9. The bus monitors do receive the 4% increase, but the bus drivers receive the 4% plus an additional 2%, so it's total 6%.
6%.
You got it.
Yeah, if you could do that, I think we could do that and just like next
Yeah.
month, have the spreadsheet for us for next month.
Yeah.
Just so we can put our eyes on it.
But let us go ahead and pay
Mhm. Yes,
based
please
on those
do.
increases.
Please
Yes.
do.
Okay. All right, so, Mr. Chairman, I recommend that the board approve the state increases that were in the budget bill of 4% for district administration, 4% for non-certified staff, and bus drivers and bus monitors, and a 2% for bus drivers to be adjusted to the salary schedule.
Heard the recommendation from the superintendent that we approve the state budget pay increases of 4% for district administration, 4% for non-certified, 4% for bus monitors and bus drivers, and an additional 2% for bus drivers. It's the pleasure of the board. Motion by Mr. Long. Second by Mr. Enzer. Any discussion? All in favor of said motion, let it be known by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You can pay Mr. Stanley.
Very good. Thank you. They deserve it.
Yep.
And that will include the retro pay as well.
Yes, this is effective July 1, 23.
Right.
So we'll go back to July and
That's right.
pay this. So they get a little extra.
That's right.
Good deal. You hear that, people?
All right, so a motion for closed session.
I move that Columbus County Board of Education go into closed session for the purpose of discussing information that is privileged, confidential, or not a public record under General Statute 143-31811.
We have a motion for closed session.
So moved.
Can I get a second? Second by Mr. Enzer. All in favor of closed session, let it be known by the sign of aye.
Aye.